Welcome to Mulberry Conversations, a podcast for business leaders and job seekers, where we discuss insights and strategies with leading professionals to help you navigate the ups and downs of today's competitive job market. Today's conversation is brought to you by Mulberry Talent Partners, a full-service recruiting, temporary staffing, and executive search firm offering talent advisory services to individuals and organizations serving the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco Bay Area. Today, our host, Lauren Francis, CEO and Chief Talent Advisor for Mulberry Talent Partners, is joined by Brandi Oldham, owner and founder coach of Talent Career Coaching, and Mac Prichard, founder and publisher of Mac's List. Today's conversations provides job seekers an overview of the early 2024 job market, shares practical tips to boost confidence, and provides ways to position yourself as a standout candidate. We're excited to announce the Love Your Career giveaway, so check out the link in the description and enter to win before Valentine's Day 2024.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Francis, and we're here with Brandi Oldham with Talent Career Coaching and Mac Prichard with the Mac's List. And many of you are familiar with both of these fine people. I'm Lauren with Mulberry Talent Partners. And so we all are going to introduce ourselves.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Brandi Oldham. I am the founding coach and owner of Talent Career Coaching. Here at Talent Career Coaching, we have 7 coaches total on staff, here to serve the individual and help you with whatever you might need in your career. A lot of times it comes down to job searching, but we support people all the way through as they become first-time managers, leaders, and eventually we train organizations as well. So anything that you're looking for, kind of that personal support or your personal HR, that's us. We support both of these individuals here in the local Portland area and love helping our candidates and employees get where they need to go. So Mac, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you, Brandi and Lauren. I'm Mac Prichard. I'm the founder and CEO of Mac's List. It's a regional job board headquartered in Portland, Oregon. We serve employers and job seekers in Oregon and Washington State. And when you visit our site, you'll find hundreds of local jobs in the area. We also provide lots of free content about how to look for work. You'll find many articles, podcast interviews, online courses, all free. It will help you improve your job search skills. And we also provide similar advice to hiring managers, the employers who use our site. And in addition to that content, I also host a weekly career advice podcast, Find Your Dream Job, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Our mission is to make hiring more human and help people find work that matters.
Oh, that's wonderful. So happy to be with you two today. Today we're coming together to talk about our career conversation bundle and giveaway. And with that, Brandi, could you share more about the idea and how this came to be?
Yeah, of course. So for those of you who follow my company, you know that our biggest sale of the year is always on the week of Black Friday. So we do a sale that entire week. There's something different every day, all the way through Small Business Saturday. And this year I partnered with Mac. We did like a job search bundle. So we gave away a resume critique. Mac, so graciously, thank you again, Mac, gave away his Land Your Dream Job Anywhere book. And Lauren, who follows both of us, immediately sent us an email and said, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so amazing. Could we come together in the new year and try to give something like this away to our audience? And well, conversation after conversation kept happening. And here you have the 3 of us in a room. And we are so excited on Valentine's Day to just spread the love. The 3 of us are going to come together along with our resources, our organizations, and basically give away up to, I calculated the monetary amount. It's over $400 we're going to give away here. Anyone who's listening to this conversation and wants to enter our giveaway. Let me tell you about that. My company is going to tackle a resume critique for you and a LinkedIn critique. Mac is going to be giving away a version of his book, Land Your Dream Job in Portland. So for all of you here locally, you're going to want to get that book. It's got tons of resources. I hand it out to my clients all the time about how to job search here in the area. And then Lauren is going to take time out of her very busy schedule to sit down with you and just really talk to you about your career and figure out, where are you going? What are your goals? How can we help get you there? So you really got 3 of the, I'm going to put it out there, we're the 3 of the experts here in this local area coming together to help you. So before we get to all of those details, when we sat down last week, the 3 of us were commiserating, if you will, about some of the stuff that we're hearing from our candidates, our clients, hiring managers, and we think it's time that we do, I don't know, State of the Union address, or at least State of the Market, and just give some education as to what's going on in the market. How is it different this year? Normally, at the new year, you start hearing New Year's resolutions and this big job, burst. And we're seeing some of it, but there's also some other things going on. So today, join in for this conversation, understand what's going on here in our local market and across the nation, and then also how you can kind of put yourself ahead of everyone else that you might be competing with. So I'm going to hand it over to Lauren to talk a little bit about the current job market and what we're seeing here and what candidates are saying.
So I'm going to be speaking to the current job market. How did we get here? And then what are candidates saying? And also what I know for sure. And what I know for sure is Mac's been at this for so many years. Brandi has a incredible business that she started and has a wealth of information from all of the different organizations she's worked for. And Mulberry's I've been in the search business for a long time, over 30 years. And I still, every day is just an absolute joy. And I get the same energy from Brandi and Mac. Our conversation last week when we were talking about this was like, oh my God, I just want to talk with you guys all day. It was very inspiring, invigorating, and great. So basically, when I thought about the topic, I thought it was best to rewind to 2020, 2022 and 2023. And then, of course, the start of 2024. Many of us can remember significant times in our history when the job market was affected. We all remember 2008, but Mac and I have maybe a little more time in this world, in this space, and remember some really dark times in the job markets. So this one was, of course, different than what we've experienced in the past. And so what happened in 2022 was post-COVID, the 2021 year, and then 2022 was the Great Resignation and a significant labor shortage. So 2022 was off the charts in terms of activity. It was also a year of transition, discovery, and change. So the Great Resignation, and we all know, I actually referred to it yesterday as the Great Escape. Anyway, it was really the Great Resignation. It just really highlighted our desires for work-life balance. It's now actually referred to as work-life integration. I don't know if anyone has heard that term, but I like it. Hybrid and remote work, healthy and progressive work cultures, and organizations that are serious about their mission and their purpose. And the good news is that organizations invested in career pathing, retention strategies, the candidate experience, both external, i.e. recruitment, and internal with employees and onboarding programs. So really invested, we heard that a lot. We saw a lot of that in the different posts and things and what companies were doing to combat the Great Resignation. Then we got into 2023 and it started off with layoff announcements. And I don't know if everyone remembers this, but it was a big deal. And what happened was hiring and resignations slowed significantly. And both companies and job seekers were just really cautious. So that all was part of the start to 23, and it never changed. It was consistent throughout the year. So then November and December, just because that was just literally a few months ago, it did not feel like the typical holiday pause. It was like, oh, it's the holidays, all that. It felt very different. It felt like the lack of openings was notable, like the quiet really hit. I think people were a little spooked about what's going on here. It just wasn't a great way to start to prepare for the new year. And what also happened is that 2024 started the exact same way as 2023. So the January, February 2023 we heard the same thing, large organizations with considerable layoffs. And I think the other thing too is that we've officially shifted into a employer's market. It was a candidate market, a job seekers market from 2022 and 2023. And it's sort of, we're trying to figure out how to navigate this, and there are more candidates on the market. And so our role here and our intention is to really help our job seekers with navigating these times And so Brandi and Mac are going to lead the conversation on what to do about it, including how to adjust to an employer's market, which I think is important. Now, that's also true that there are many positions that are still very hard to fill. And that's true. There are a lot of professional level roles there are more job seekers than openings. So I'm sure that Mac can address that too. So what I wanted to touch on briefly was what candidates are saying, because that's really what resonated with me. And part of it was for me to, of course, reach out to Mac and Brandi about this job search bundle. But then what happened was I started talking about what candidates are saying. And looking for a job is tedious. It requires a lot of discipline and focus, and it's isolating. It can take a hit on our self-confidence, and we question our value. And that is tough. So what I wanted to just touch on briefly was just what we always hear. We always hear the same things, network and schedule informational interviews and connect with internal employees and all of those things. Grow and invest in your network, attend personal events. All of that is wise advice for sure. I think it's how it sits with us and our intention, and to look at it as not as a sort of like a chore, but look at it to really position it in your mind and in your heart differently. So a couple things came up was one, investment. So many of us invest in certifications and trainings and additional education. Yet when it comes to our resume and our LinkedIn profile and looking at potentially bringing on a career coach, we tend to not take that step. And why is that? We need to invest in ourselves. So oftentimes, and when it comes to looking for positions or being prepared for a job search, resume, LinkedIn profile, and a career coach, I think are essential if that's something that works for you. I think of it as an investment in your career, future employment, and it's a huge confidence booster. And I'll really quickly, my cousin Marty was looking for a new role he's director of sales for hospitality industry. And his resume was, needed a refresh. And so we put him in touch with a resume writer. And he said, it changed the way I felt about myself. I had more confidence. I felt like, wow, I've done all these things. And so it just really was a confidence booster for him. And he said, you know what? It's like wearing a new suit. I felt great. So I want to just share that because it really does make a difference. And it does affect also how you show up in an interview, because you've got this document that really is showcasing your background and your experience, which is fantastic. The other area that I want to touch on is to think differently. Think about how you can be flexible. So for example, now not everybody can do this, and I understand, but I want to share the example because I think it's important. So one of our candidates is a senior TA partner. Right now, there are so many recruiters on the market. And so it's an area where there are more candidates than roles. And so she said, look at Lauren, I am a senior TA partner, and I've been in the tech industry and in financial fintech. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a kind of like a career sabbatical, she called it. And I am interested in positions, she's earning like 140,000 a year the last several years. And she said 95,000 or more. And I'm open to positions that are not in technology, in other industries. So it was like, hey, good for you. So she was able to do that. Financially, she can make that change. Not everybody can do that. But the point is, she thought about, I'm okay to invest the next couple of years in, let's say, the area of expertise. I have that background, but I've really focused on tech for the last 4 or 5 years. Yet I'm excited about maybe looking at this a little differently. So I think that's really important when we talk about what are candidates saying. This was just an idea. The other ways are to consider contracts, to take a career break. Again, this isn't one size fits all. This is, these are just ideas. Consider a part-time or volunteer opportunity. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in your area of expertise. Find a mentor and develop a weekly plan. One of the things that people do, and this is another candidate telling me, okay, this is what I'm going to do. She said, I'm going to prepare a weekly plan and try not to overload myself with too many tasks. So this candidate said she changed her, fervor of submissions, resume submissions, to thoughtful resume submissions. And yes, and meaning that she submits her resume to positions that she feels a connection to. And so what's happened is it's reduced all of the churn that goes on with just that constant applying. It's smart because it reduces the activity, but it also helps you with not getting all of those no thanks, but no thanks, and which it takes a hit, even though it's a job that may not be top of your list, it still takes a hit on your confidence. Who needs that? And then she stopped applying to remote roles, which for the most part, now she will, but because there are so many candidates that apply, you'll either get nothing back or a no, or just you'll be in the ether somewhere. So I really liked her plan. The other thing that she mentioned, we always hear about networking. What she did is she said, I'm only going to reach out to 3 networking or connections, warm leads, that kind of thing a week. I'm not going to just go with multiples. And so what she did is she really put some barriers on how she want to approach it. And she feels so much better. And I see both of you nodding because you've had this experience before with candidates. And it just is important to remind ourselves that everything I'm saying and everything that Brandi and Mac are going to share are good reminders of how we want to position ourselves during this time. So that's my take on, the current job market. And who's up next?
It's Mac.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Mac. Okay.
Terrific. I appreciate that analysis. And I also want to ask listeners and viewers to think back to 2022. And we were in this crazy period, Lauren, where if you applied for a job, suddenly the old rules didn't apply. You didn't have to go through multiple interviews. You could actually get a hiring manager on the phone, and things happened quickly. And the reason it happened was because of what you just described, that labor shortage. And our unemployment rate is still at historic lows. So why aren't we seeing that kind of behavior now? We're going to talk about that in a moment. But what we've seen in the last year is a return to, candidly, bad hiring habits that we saw before the pandemic, when it was very much an employer's market for many, many years. You may be right, Lauren. It might be an employer's market again. I'm not sure yet. And the reason I'm hesitating is because last year we saw a record number of labor strikes. And that happens typically in economies where workers have the upper hand. And they might have lost that. What time will tell. But in the meantime, we're in this funny period where the old bad hiring habits have reappeared. Candidates are telling us, and you, and I know you're hearing it too, Brandi, that they're seeing those application forms that require multiple answers and essay questions. Candidates are being asked to come back for 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 interviews, and decisions that might have happened in 2022 in just a couple of weeks are now taking several months. Why is this happening? If you look at just the economic data, you would think, oh, we're still in the middle of a labor shortage. Unemployment rates are at historic lows. Real wages have continued to creep up, but perception usually trumps facts. And there's a perception out there that people are worried about the future. And I think part of it is inflation. We saw dramatic increases in prices. Part of it is what's happening in the world in general with wars in Ukraine, in Gaza, climate change. People, the upcoming presidential election in the United States, people are anxious. And in terms of hiring, what happens, hiring managers are not immune to those anxieties I think that people are feeling right now. And when hiring managers worry, what they do is they try to manage risk. And the way they manage risk is they ask for more interviews, they ask for more information in the applications, and they ask for more people to be involved in hiring decisions. And that results in the kinds of changes that the three of us are seeing in our work with employers and with candidates. For applicants, this has meant a lot longer waiting time between when the job posting is first spotted and when an offer is made. And it also means more work. So what can you do about it? Two things come to mind. And Brandi, I know you're going to dig into this, and you already touched on it too, Lauren. But I think the first is when you do apply for a job, and I agree, you need to be focused. I'm not a fan of spray and pray. I think it creates more work, and this idea that, oh, it's a numbers game. You send out multiple applications, hundreds, and eventually you'll get a job. I think you're creating more work for yourself than you need to. When you do apply, reach out to the employer and ask about the hiring table. You can do this by email. You can do it by an old-fashioned phone call. You're talking to someone about a potential business deal here, partnering with them, and you're equal parties in this conversation. So act like that. And if you don't hear back, I think that's telling you something about the culture of the organization. When you do get an interview, don't let the person get off the phone or out of the Zoom call or leave the room, whatever setting you're in, without asking them three questions. What's the next step in your hiring process? How will you communicate with me? And if I don't hear back from you, because I know you're a busy person, what's the best way for me to follow up? And when you get the answers to that, that's going to help you manage your expectations, and it's going to give you insights into how the hiring process works inside that organization. And the final point is another way hiring managers reduce risk is they rely on referrals. And I would encourage anyone listening, reflect back on the best jobs you've had, and probably referrals were a part of it, because the person who told you about the position knew something about you and knew something about what you wanted, and most importantly, knew what you could do. So managers rely on referrals because they know if they turn to people they know and trust, that's going to reduce risk. Now, how can you create referrals when you're a candidate? It goes back to being focused, just as you were encouraging people to do, Lauren. Don't apply everywhere. Know what you want. And one of the best ways to get clear about what you want once you set your job goal is to have a list of target companies. This could be 10, 15, even 30 organizations. But when you have that list, it provides a roadmap for your networking. And Brandi, I know you're going to talk a lot about networking. You've already mentioned it, Lauren, but when you have focused conversations inside the places where you want to work, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to learn about opportunities that aren't posted. You're going to make connections, and you're going to make a great impression. People are going to think about you when opportunities arise. And you can also ask for introductions to hiring managers inside those places. And those referrals are gold, again, because they help managers reduce risk. So on paper, this should be a great economy, and the job seeker should be sitting in what used to be called the catbird seat, a place of opportunity. And it may be the job seeker's market is over, but if you recognize what's happening and the importance of risk in the hiring process, and you look for ways to manage your own expectations and generate referrals, I think you're going to have a shorter and easier job search in the year ahead.
Great
Yeah, I
point.
couldn't agree more. Yeah. And, kind of to piggyback off that, Mac, when you're talking about the employers, so I'll be the first to tell you, and they both know this, every time we come to these conversations, I'm in the mind of the client, right? I'm in the mind of the people that I'm helping the people versus the organization. A lot of times I'm looking at that individual level. But if I put my corporate hat back on here for a second, if we have any hiring managers or recruiters listening to this conversation, I'm going to call you out here for a second. A lot of what we're seeing, Mac, like you're talking about, is these literally, I was on a call with a client 3 hours ago, and we were going through one of an application that she's applying to, and I was just flabbergasted by the steps that were listed out in this hiring process. We're talking resume, cover letter, references, all up front, plus 5 essay questions. And then you have to wait 3 weeks until they close. If you're a hiring manager, if you are a recruiter listening to this, I want you to just think about one thing. If I were to put back on my manager hat from the days when I used to do this, if you are putting a posting out and you are asking your candidates to jump through a hoop, whether that's a resume, a cover letter, these essay questions, whatever it is, I really need you to pause for a second and ask yourself, why am I asking this question? And what is it about the answer that is going to help me either move forward with this person or move this person along? And if you can't answer that, the question does not need to be there, because we do not need to be just putting questions out to put questions out. Candidates, we're asking so much from them, and then half the time, are you even reading it? And if that's happening, I will come through the computer. No, like it's one of those moments where it's really think about that. You don't ask questions of people and ask for their energy and their time just to punch the clock. Like really be intentional about what you're asking and know what it is that you're looking for. And have that rubric there so that you know what you're scoring those answers on, so that it's not pointless for either side. All of that being said, putting my
just two quick reactions.
Yeah,
I would also
absolutely.
add, why do you need those things now if you didn't need them in 2022 or 2021 when it was urgent to get people in the room and into spots? And then second, if you really do need that information, fold it into your hiring process. And when you've done, don't ask people that you're going to qualify through a phone screener to write 5 essays or 3 or even 1. Ask them later when they're perhaps in the second round of interviews or even the third. There are sometimes with jobs, you'll ask someone to do a presentation, or maybe if it's a writing position, a marketing job, you'll have them do a simple writing test in the office that takes 15 or 20 minutes. You don't ask everybody to take a writing test when they apply for a marketing job. So think about ways you could restructure, if you're a hiring manager listening to this, to the need for that information. But to your point, Brandi, just ask yourself, why do you need this? And if it's about managing risk, there are probably better ways, like relying on employee referrals, doing your own networking, that doesn't create unnecessary and in the end, often meaningless work for candidates.
And meaningless work for you. Because either you're doing one of two things, you're not reading them, or you're reading them and adding hours to your day, which we all know we don't have extra hours to be doing pointless work. That's my candid take on it.
And last point, you're also creating barriers, and you're wondering why you're not getting as many applications as you'd hoped, or you're not hearing from as many people, different kinds of people as you'd hoped. So anyway, back to you, Brandi. You can tell I have energy about this.
I know, really, but I wanted to add too that, the Great Resignation, there was a statement made, right? And they want a healthy and progressive workplace, and they want, they do want this work-life integration, hybrid, remote, whatever. But more importantly, they were looking at organizations that care about their workforce, and that setting that up the way you described does not do that. And don't forget, in 2022, employers were selling their job to the candidates. And so to that drastic reversal is notable, and it's not working, because job seekers, they're not just looking for a job, right? And they're looking for a great career choice. And churn in employment is not what they're looking for. They're looking for the right place. So if they are interviewing with multiple organizations and an offer comes through elsewhere, they're going to take it because their candidate experience is not a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the hiring experience is a brand.
It's branding.
It strengthens or weakens your brand as an employer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, there was my professional side. I'll let that one for a minute. I want to go back into my coaching, because that's where I obviously
all fired up.
Yeah. Just here we go, get us all going. But okay, so if you are a job seeker out there, I've got some positive news. Much to what Lauren just said, what I'm seeing is candidates that are more focused, more picky, really critically thinking about their hiring experience. And on one hand, I am actually on all hands, I'm very excited about that. I think that's a great thing. People are really starting to tap into their values, their strengths, all of that. It's a win for everybody. That being said, though, this market's taking longer. I'm just going to cut to the chase. We've been talking about it. I was on a call, like I just mentioned, I had a call a couple hours ago with someone who's been job searching for, it's been about 6 months now. And this is a career changer. Already had a full career, going back into the workforce, doing kind of like a second career after going back to school. And this person very candidly said to me, I'm exhausted. And I just feel really defeated. And the thing I want to tell any of, the job seekers out there, there's three things that I would say in this market that I would want you to focus on. But the first one is know your worth. And what I mean by that is know what you're good at and know where you need to improve. And that comes with confidence. And what's happening is, if I were to flash back to when the job market wasn't so great, it was probably, oh my gosh, 7 or 8 years ago. Okay, cool. So when I was in that moment, and I remember I had this awesome resume, I had this awesome cover letter, but the problem was, is as time went on, my confidence got shot. So when I would show up in that room and I'd be ready to do that interview, all of a sudden that piece of paper and that person don't match. And that's what I would say to anyone listening to this call is, whether that's getting yourself a coach, getting yourself a mentor, and spending time around friends and family that lift you up, now is the time to do that. You have to know your worth and make sure that you're doing things to help protect that confidence, because that bubble can get shattered real quick. And we have to make sure that we protect it as much as we can, because the longer this goes on, the thinner that bubble gets. The second one I have, which is right in line with that, is protect your mental health. We all know this time of year, if you're here in the Portland area and you were here last week, we all went stir crazy with the snow and ice. We're recording this a little bit before Valentine's Day. So as you all know, January, February in this part of the country is not exactly sunshine and rainbows. Very rainy, very dark. People struggle in general with maintaining motivation. You can't get out, you can't go on walks, things like that. But as a coach, I tell my people, your mental health matters the most when the market's like this. You have to play the long game. So whether that looks like getting out of your house and getting some fresh air, please do that. If you're job searching and you're finding yourself doing what I call angry applications, I don't know what you called it, Mac. It was spray and pray. I like that too. But it's this idea of, you're mass applying. Does that feel good to anybody? If it does feel good to you, call me, because I got a lot of questions for you. I have yet to find someone that's like, oh my gosh, I love applying to jobs in mass quantity. It takes a really big hit on us. And so if you find yourself doing that, please heed my warning, get up, get away from the computer. You're not doing yourself any favors. Protect your mental health, set timers, utilize technology. So if you're on a job search, you mentioned Mac, keep your short list of your companies. They've got job alerts, sign up for them, and then stop spending all your time going down the rabbit hole and allow those new postings to come to you. If you're needing to take a step back, it's a great resource to help you in that process. So protect your mental health, huge advocate on that. The last one I have is informational interviews. So networking in and of itself can become a check the box exercise. That is not what I'm talking about. Informational interviews are conversations just like this with people who you find inspiring, who you find in roles that you want to be in or companies that you want to be at. And it's a very quick 20 to 30 minute conversation that is strategic. How did you get where you are? What do you like about your job day to day? And how is it looking for the future here, right? Those 3 questions are the bare minimum of what you need to be talking about. You can pepper in other things, but those 3 are the ones you really need to be talking to people about, not because it's going to get you the job. I'm going to be very clear about that. It's not a secret to just getting you a quick job, but what it does is it opens your eyes to more information. So, look at the 3 of us here in this room. We all have varied backgrounds on how we ended up in this space, but we're all here talking about the same thing. So if you have a conversation with the 3 of us, you're going to learn about 3 very different paths to getting to this place. The same thing happens when you start doing informational interviews and you start to open your eyes to, oh, actually, I could take this side path here to get into this role, which will give me this skill to end up back where I want to be. And I can work my way this way. It's more strategic and it's a long game, but it's the way to really circumvent when the market's looking like it is and you're feeling like you are. So any other thoughts on that? And those are my 3 that I tell people all the time these days.
Absolutely. One of the things I was thinking about is during the last few years, people were very, very clear about what they wanted and what they didn't want. And they were very bold and clear and expressive in interview settings. And so that I think that was great for so many reasons. And also people were really confident about asking about culture questions, just inquiring about the culture and having that dialogue. Now what happens is because the market has shifted a little bit, people are less inclined to ask for, what they're looking for. They don't have, their barriers are a little bit broader. They've taken down some of those, which I think is fine too. But they're not asking the culture questions that they were. So there's a balance to that. I know that a lot of employers said when they're in an interview and someone is talking about me, I want, I need, that is not helpful. I do know that what a lot of people do instead is they ask questions about, why are we talking right now? What do you think that, I can offer in terms of my background that is going to make a difference? And I know these are the areas on your job, on the job posting and the responsibilities where I excel. And there are a couple areas where I'm missing or I have some exposure. So it's sort of like having that candid conversation that is kind of leading up to, what can I bring to add value to this organization, to this team, to this role? And so it's that balancing between what you want, and you don't lead with what you want in the first interview. This is what you're looking for ultimately, and you might give in certain ways. We had a candidate this morning that accepted a position through us, and it was 5,000 less than she wanted, but there were so many things about the role and the organization and the hiring manager. This is absolutely what I want. And it made sense for her. It doesn't work for everyone. So I think there's that sort of alignment and that awareness that is important for job seekers to be aware of. And Mac and Brandi, do you have any comments on that piece?
I would second the point you both made about the importance of having focus, knowing what you want, and spending your time pursuing those positions. Informational interviews and job search in general, it's like a research project. You're trying to identify the employers who offer the opportunities that most interest you, and you're trying to understand too what the market pays for those positions and what skills are required, so that when you are in conversation about an offer, what the market is paying, and that puts you in a better position to get what you want. The second point I'd reinforce, I like your emphasis, Lauren, on not making interviews only about yourself as the applicant. The people I see have great success in interviews, the candidates, they know what they offer, but they also spend time both before the conversation and in the interview itself, understanding what the employer's problems are, because that's what hiring managers are looking for, problem solvers. And the more you understand about what keeps an interviewer up at night, the person you're going to work for, the more successful you'll be, and the more you'll distinguish yourself from your competitors. My go-to interview question, I usually would recommend saving it for the second conversation, is when you have a chance to ask the interviewer questions, say to her or him, if I'm fortunate enough to get this job, we're sitting down, we're doing my annual review in a year's time, what are the 3 things you want me to tell you I've done for you? And I guarantee you,
Love that.
and the manager will pause. She'll lean back in her chair or lean back in the Zoom call, and she'll tell you something that isn't in the job posting and that's not in the interview questions. And you have the opportunity to reflect back on what you've done, or think about your ideas for solving that problem. And you engage that manager in a conversation about how you've dealt with that challenge in the past, or how you might help them solve that problem in the future.
Oh, Mac, that's gold. If anyone is listening to this, please grab a pen and go backwards here and write that down. That was fantastic. The other thing I would just add to that is, when I'm working with job seekers specifically, I always talk to them about their non-negotiables list. And when I say this, I'm going to surprise you probably by what I mean by this. It needs to be 3 things or less. Anything over 3 things, those aren't your non-negotiables. That's not the hill you're dying on. I'm sorry. It needs to be 3 or less. And the reality is, it's not necessarily what you often think. Like when people think non-negotiables, they're like, it's this salary, it's this benefits package. It's these hard and fast, tangible things. when my clients work with me, half the time it's one of their non-negotiables is I need a hiring manager that is excited about someone bringing solutions to problems to them versus they have to solve it, right? Or it's something about the work of I want the ability to be creative 20% of the time. It's not necessarily these like tangible number things that we can check off a list, but when you really get into the meat of this is exactly what I need in a job, and that's part of my non-negotiable, the entire interview conversation changes. Because now you're having a conversation about, I'm a problem solver. So what kind of problems do you have on this team? How are you looking for someone to come on this team and help solve them? So it becomes much more collaborative and a dynamic conversation versus just, can you verify the salary requirements for me?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that salary is not on the non-negotiables list. We've got people, I mean, you've got living situations and that is a non-negotiable. But there's usually a few other things in there that when you really boil it down, if you don't have this in the job, you're going to be so unhappy. The day-to-day is going to be miserable. So thinking more than just like that check box of the benefits package and whatever else might be on there, which holidays you get off, really think about the content of the work. That's what you're going to be doing day to day.
Yeah, and and also gauge when the right time is to talk about those
Absolutely.
pieces. And it's usually when a job offer is presented. And then that's where you do want to know some basics, of course. Otherwise, everyone's wasting their time.
Right.
I do, to your point, Mac, and about the annual review and the 3 things done, which I love. I would also, and the same idea, which is what initiatives is the organization working on? What are the goals for the organization? What initiatives is this department looking to? Where do you want to be in a year? And how can this role make that happen? So you're being proactive, you're thinking about the organization, the role, and what the impact is going to be. And so that is a totally different conversation. So there's just a lot here that just what you're sharing is just really, really helpful. And some people, and I understand this, are hesitant to ask those questions or to inquire that deeply because they don't want to pry or all these other things. And you want to change our mindset and how we do that. One other point I wanted to make, don't forget about the people that helped you along the way. This happens a lot where you have someone that referred you to a job and then you ended up getting the job or introduced you to someone and then you were able to navigate X, Y, and Z. It is so important to remember the people that helped you along the way and to acknowledge them.
Agreed. And if you're doing a lot of networking, you're creating a community that will be part of, depending on where you are in your career. Maybe you're 5, 10, 20 years in, but you will keep running across those people again and again, as long as you're in that field or in that town. I, like the two of you, I do informational interviews all the time, and I'm always happy to do them. And I almost always receive a thank you note by email after the conversation. But I don't regularly hear from people who've gotten jobs, and everyone does eventually. So the ones, it's usually about a dozen people a year. I get an email or a card from saying, hey, we met 3 months ago. Just wanted you to know I landed at this place. Thanks again for that conversation. Those people I know, I don't worry about. I know they're going to have great careers because they're looking to the future, and they recognize that when you network, you're not just asking for help, you're part of a community, and you're not only going to ask for help, you're going to give to others too.
No, so important. Gosh, you guys, this is a great conversation. I learned so much, and I know that this is going to be beneficial for the people that come on and listen to our conversation. And we're excited about our giveaway. You want to touch on that real quick, Brandi? What are we giving away?
Yeah, no problem. We are giving away a resume critique through Talent Career Coaching, a LinkedIn critique through Talent Career Coaching, a book that Mac has written, Land Your Dream Job in Portland. It's filled with fantastic stuff. And then Lauren is going to, again, sit down with you and just have a full-on conversation about your career, what's going on, where are you at, and give you some really great one-on-one tailored advice. So again, like we mentioned, this is over $400 in value, and you're getting 3 people who actively do this day in and day out. If you are a job seeker and you are looking for that extra support and you want to get an extra set of eyes on your resume, your LinkedIn, have a conversation, get some lifelong lessons in how to land a job, this is the giveaway for you. We are so excited to spend this Valentine's Day with you and just wanted to spread the love to all of our job seekers. Hang in there. We hear you. We know it's tough, but we're here to support you, as are so many other people here in this Portland metro area.
Absolutely. It's a great community and we are all committed to your success. So
100%.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us today. And thank you, Brandi, and thank you, Mac. And I'm delighted that we pulled this together. Had a great conversation.
Thank you for joining us. To dive deeper into today's conversations, please visit us at mulberrytalent.com, where you can find additional resources and conversations, learn more about Mulberry, and see our complete service offerings in specialty areas including human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. And don't forget to subscribe to Mulberry Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform.